Hello. A big part of our lives today is debt. It is, for many people, unavoidable at certain stages of their lives that they have to take on some debt, whether that be student loan debt, their first mortgage, how they purchase a vehicle, that type of stuff. And so when we look at debt, we look at it in a couple ways. First off, I look at, you hear this all the time, good debt versus bad debt. So, what a lot of folks think about as good debt is debt that has been used to purchase something that will gain in value. So, if we think about that, purchasing a home that's going to grow in value and financing that can make a lot of sense. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to afford it for a long time, but it also is growing in value as you pay down the debt. So, that can be helpful. Another key one might be student loans. And it's super hard maybe to categorize this as good debt, but when we think about what does a student loan debt get us, it gets us an education that will allow us to increase our earning power. So in essence, we're investing in the asset of me or yourself, and you're using that asset to parlay into a larger income stream down the road. So it can be good debt. Now, when it comes to debt, I think it's really, really important to have a structured debt reduction plan and to focus on those debts that irk you the most potentially. So when I think about this, I think about credit card debt first and foremost. And, 19.9, 21.9, those are the interest rates we're seeing on credit card debt at this point if you're not dealing with a low interest card. So it can become one of these things that's adding up to a lot of interest. So there are some strategies that you can use. Example, you can pick the lowest debt or the biggest or most expensive debt and pay minimum payments on everything else and go after that. The one I prefer to use is actually something that I'm looking at more mindset pieces and motivation and trying to keep people aligned on that stuff. And so what I will often do is say, let's go after the smallest debt first. So maybe we can pay that off in 6 months or 12 months instead of taking a lot longer if just in case the most expensive debt is also the biggest debt. So in that case, we're going to take a plan and we're going to do the same kind of strategy, meaning we're going to pay the minimum payments on everything else. And then we're going to go and put everything we have against one card. And what that allows us to do is to get rid of that one faster. And there's something really motivating about seeing one being paid off. And then what you do is you take the balance, like what were you putting on that card, and choose this next one. And that next one could be the next smallest one and go after that so that you can really escalate and start making bigger and bigger payments as each one gets settled. What I see sometimes too for some folks, especially if they're in a cyclical sales industry or they're a business owner that the revenue ebbs and flows, is that they get a big lump sum and they go pay everything off. And then next month, they don't necessarily have that same fund coming in. And they end up going back into the line of credit or whatever sources of debt they were using. And that can be kind of unmotivating. So in those situations, I like people to figure out a nice stable number that they can do and just keep focused on it. Yes, it will cost a little bit more in interest in the long run, but we're talking about peace of mind here. And we're talking about being able to sleep at night and not worrying where the next dollar comes from. So being nice and stable like that can really assist. So get your debt reduction strategy on the go because I know it will help you.